Hi, this is Martin with Slow and Steady Farm, and I wanted to give you a quick tour of our greenhouse. So let's get to it. This is a 30 by 75 greenhouse kit from OBC. First off, I love these sliding barn door rail kits with other greenhouse door systems where they swing open. There's always grass and crap in the way, and they're always getting wedged up against the ground, and it makes it a pain to open and close the door. This shut, latch, hooks securely. All these components are available at farm stores. They're only a few dollars. The rail and the tracks are maybe $150 or something for all these parts. I just built the door myself out of 2x4s and scrap wood and some of the greenhouse plastic. It's worked great for a couple years. Let's see. In here we have a bunch of Hakurei turnips, spinach, the radishes are almost done, some bok choy, lettuce is over there, and then this is our start house too, so we have onions and lettuces and brassicas that are about to go outside, and we have our little potting area and our soil blocks with our tomato starts that are just germinated about a week ago. Yeah, we don't have power out here, so we're using a solar setup. I have this little solar panel just leaned here because we don't have another, I haven't mounted it yet, and we're running a 24-volt solar setup, which I'll talk about later why, but here's the batteries in here, and then this is the other electronics, the little solar charge controller and an inverter for creating AC power when we need it. And this is a double plastic double wall greenhouse, and I couldn't find any fans that ran off 24 volts that were made for greenhouses, so this is just a regular case fan that I've mounted to the in between the two layers of plastic, so you can kind of see here that there's an inside and an outside layer. And this case fan has plenty of power to just keep it pretty well inflated all the time. The fans aren't really weatherproof, so just due to the humidity in here, I kind of go through about maybe 2 a year, but luckily they're only about $5, so I buy them in a pack of 4 and just swap them out when they die. Let's see, this is our germ chamber. I built it so that the flats can slide directly in here, and it doesn't need other shelves to heat it. I'm just using a regular heat mat and a tray with water in it. And then I have this cheap thermostat sensor you can get from Amazon that you plug it in. It's got this temperature probe that I just have sitting up there, and then you just set the temperature on here, and it gives power to the heat mat whenever it's below that temperature. I usually set it to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see, the coolest thing about this greenhouse, I think, is the roll-up sides and the automated roll-up side system. I'm going to show you the control box in a minute, but first let's check out the motors. So these have only been available for a few years. They're made in China. You can get them on AliExpress or Amazon now. Here you can see the specs if you want to check it out. but they run on 24 volts, and that's kind of why I'm running a 24 volt solar system. You adjust these knobs in here to set the limit for how low it'll go and how high it'll go, or else it'll just keep climbing and kind of crush itself when it gets to the top of the greenhouse plastic. These have been running for about, I think it was two seasons ago that I installed this, so this has been going for 2 years. I haven't had any problem with these motors. This is a 75-foot long greenhouse, and it has no trouble having enough power to lift that. Let me turn it on. We'll watch it work. So here's my little control box I built, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but gonna switch this side to up and manual. Now it's rolling up. The motor came with 2 adapters for different size pipes, but actually neither of them worked with the standard roll-up size pipe from OVG, where I bought this greenhouse, Oregon Valley greenhouse. So I kind of had to make my own setup and make my own adapter and wedge some metal in here and put a bolt on it, and it was rubbing on here, so I put some duct tape over it just to keep it from tearing up the plastic. And then there's 2 ways to mount these. You can either have a vertical pipe that goes up and down, and then get what they call is a trolley to keep this thing in place and ride up and down the vertical pipe you mount. Or you can do this kind of thing, where there's this pipe just kind of holds the pressure on it, but allows it to slide in and out here. So it can kind of pivot on this pipe as it rises and slide in and out. And this is just a standard piece you can get at a hardware store that's bolted there, and it isn't taking a lot of force. It's just basically loose in there, but it just keeps this in place. So it just hit that top limit. You can see it's about done. And if I were to like adjust this, it'll go up higher, you know. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, this is the control box. It's a little more complicated to set up. It involves some Arduino programming and soldering, and I will share my schematics and Arduino code if you want to try and copy what I'm doing. But to run these motors, you basically, when they go up, you want to apply 24 volts to the positive and 0 volts or ground to the other wire. And when they go down, you basically just flip the wires so that the negative wire gets 24 volts and the positive wire gets ground. So to do that, you need these switches. Here, I'll open this up. That I've wired up. It's kind of a mess in there. But yeah, I'll show the schematics for these switches. So this way you can have a manual up and down. We'll put that side back down. You can see it slowly going back down. But most of the time I leave these on auto. And so there's a temperature sensor. I have it right here because you want to keep it out of the sun. But this is a standard part you can get for Arduinos. They're like $3. And then that is talking to this Arduino Nano, which these are also about $3. And then there's a program on this Arduino that is I'll have to look up the code, but every like minute or so, it checks that temperature sensor. And if it's above the threshold, then it rolls up the sides for like 10 seconds. and then stops. So that will bring it up about just like one notch, maybe 10% open. And then it waits and then checks the temperature again. And if it's still too hot, it rolls it up a little more until eventually, after about 10 of those cycles, which takes maybe 15 minutes to go through all that, it gets all the way open. So that's kind of a gradual way to, so they're not fully opening and closing every time the temperature goes slightly above or below that threshold. I have it so it kind of gradually opens in steps and so it'll just crack it at first if it's just a little bit over the temperature. And then it's kind of the same process in reverse for going down. If it's too cold in here, then it'll start putting the sides down in little steps. Yeah, so that's what the program on the Arduino does. And then, but this thing doesn't have enough power to actually drive the motors, because they do take about like maybe about 1 amp of current or 25 watts or whatever when they're running, sometimes up to 2 amps, but that's really not that much, but it's more than the Arduino can handle. So that's what this whole board is. It's a relay board, and these are also only, I don't know, $5 or $10. And that interfaces with the Arduino, so when the Arduino says roll up the sides, it clicks on a few relays and applies 24 volts to the right wires, and the motors start rolling up. And that's about it. This is a little power supply adapter to get the 24 volts down to 5 volts, which is what the Arduino and the relay board want to use. And these are, I don't know, $10. So all of this, everything in this box, all the switches and the box, probably less than 50 bucks. And then the motors themselves, I believe those were $80 each or something like that. And then other miscellaneous hardware and wiring, I don't know, another 20 bucks. So this really doesn't need to be expensive. It's unfortunately, you know, all the wiring stuff, I haven't found a really great, like, pre-wired, like all of these different components all wired together. You kind of have to rig it up and solder it yourself at this point. It would be nice if somebody made something like that, because these components aren't expensive. But to get them arranged in the way that you need, it does take a little bit of expertise. But if you know someone that does Arduinos and can solder, honestly, this is all pretty basic to anybody that can do that kind of thing. So you could hire some high school kid that does robotics or somebody that does Arduinos, and they could set this up for you. And I'll include the schematics of how this works and the Arduino code itself in the links to this video. One other thing is there's no display on this. That would be something you could add, and it would make it a little more complicated. So you can't really see what the current temperature is. There's no way to connect to it with your smartphone at this point. I didn't program that in. But you could get a little more advanced system and set up those kinds of features. But this is just kind of the basics needed to make it work. So one other drawback I'll say about the way I did this setup is if you want to change the set temperatures of what temperature or humidity it goes up and down, you have to change the code for the Arduino on your computer and then upload the code, bring a laptop out here and connect it and hit send and upload the new code to the Arduino. So that's kind of a pain. There's not like an easy button on here to just like, set the temperature to 80 instead of 70 degrees. But, actually I had it opening colder last year, and I think at some point I adjusted it. I think the sides open at about 80 degrees or something like that. And after I adjusted it, I liked it better, and I haven't touched it. So once you get it set the way you like it, you're not going to want to adjust that temperature that much. But you know, if you wanted to have those more advanced features, it would be cool to have it accessible from a smartphone or from an internet interface and be able to check the temperature and check the status and adjust the temperatures. That would be a cool feature. And all it would really take is a different Arduino that had like a Wi-Fi capability built in. And I've thought about doing that too, but I haven't got around to it. Okay, one last thing that I've done, or that I haven't done, I guess. There's more relays on that board, and there's more outputs on the Arduino. And I did install these vents in the peaks of this greenhouse, but I haven't hooked them up. I haven't automated that. But you could have, for example, another temperature set point on the Arduino, and when it gets to 75 degrees, open the vents. And then when it gets to 80 degrees, if the vents aren't enough, then start opening the sides. You know, so you could have all these different stages of different activities. You could have fans that turn on and off. So this system could be, you know, it's not, once you have the basics all set up, it's not that hard to add more features to it. It's really modular. And you can add more of those relay boards, and you can get bigger Arduinos. You could control hundreds of things and all kinds of different greenhouses off of one little control box.